Welcome to episode 14 of A New Way to Love, Live, and Lead. I'm your host, Cheryne Blom, a master coach, author, and the founder of the Self-Mastery Hub, your online home for self-inquiry, healing, and growth. This podcast is here to remind you that midlife is not a crisis. It's an awakening. And season 2 is all about the art of self-connection, how to return to yourself, reclaim your truth, and live from your authentic power. And today we're diving into one of my favorite topics, personal power, and how to step into your power without push. When you hear the phrase, be in your power or step into your power, what comes up for you? For so many of us, the word power feels loaded. We've been taught that power means dominance, control, authority, being in charge. For women especially, the idea of being powerful can feel uncomfortable sometimes, like it might make us too much, too strong, or too intimidating. And for many, power is linked with aggression. Many of my listeners are high-achieving women in leadership roles, managing teams, managing their businesses, managing their families, but not always managing themselves. And as a high-achieving woman myself, I know that sometimes I come last. And I know that when I ask many of my clients to stand in their power, they actually give me a bewildered look and ask me, what do I mean by power? What does it mean to stand in my personal power? And they often attribute their power to being powerful and in control. But here's the truth. True power isn't about control. It's about alignment. It's not about pushing, proving, or overpowering anybody. It's about standing in your truth, calm, grounded, and clear, and leading from integrity. When you're in your authentic power, you don't need to convince anybody. You don't need to chase validation. You radiate confidence because your energy and values are aligned. That's what I call power without push. Standing in your power, therefore, means to stand in your truth, which ultimately means standing in your confidence. And to me, confidence is made up of 3 pillars, what I refer to as the Trinity of courage: trust, belief, and faith. Our inner confidence is our strength. It's our conviction. When we are self-connected, we are connected to this inner strength. We are connected to this trinity of courage, trust, belief, and faith. We believe in ourselves. We can easily communicate ourselves and put up boundaries. We trust our intuition and our decisions, and we have faith in ourselves, our capabilities, and faith in a higher power supporting us. For much of my life, I thought power was being strong, holding it all together, pushing through, achieving, never showing weakness, definitely not being vulnerable. In my 20s and 30s, I wore doing it all like a badge of honor. I worked hard, I looked after everyone, and rarely slowed down. I believed that being powerful meant being in control of my emotions, my career, my relationship, my image. But underneath that drive was fear. Fear of losing control. Fear of failing. Fear of not being enough. I was in force mode, doing mode, push mode, always pushing, performing, and proving. And you know what? That kind of power eventually burns you out. And it did. It's taken me years to realize that true power doesn't come from control. It comes from connecting with my inner confidence and not only feeling that confidence, but expressing it. And honoring this inner truth is what I have come to define as self-respect. Every time I make a confident choice, I respect myself. Every time I make a choice that is true to me, that is self-respect. Specifically, this means aligning my choices and actions with my values. And for me, my two highest values are grace and courage. And when I honor grace and courage, I am respecting the truth of who I am. When I'm in my feminine power and flow, I feel grace. When I'm in my masculine power and action, I feel courage. So I've guided myself to be graceful courage, and that helps me balance and assert my energy or my power in a balanced, more authentic and confident way. And so self-respect is the second layer of self-connection. Last episode, we spoke about self-awareness. And now when we go deeper into self-respect, deeper into ourselves, we are now honoring ourselves, which means knowing who you are, what matters to you, and choosing to live in alignment with that, no matter what anybody else thinks. There are many places that we lose our power, in people, in situations, addictions. One of the areas that I've really struggled in myself, and it's hard to admit, is I've lost my power to food. My food addiction or emotional eating habits have really taken me out of my power. I've given my power to food. And it has felt like food has had power over me rather than being the other way round. And I would know the habits that I needed to do, but then when I was around certain social situations or around certain foods, I would suddenly lose that connection to myself, lose that focus. And then I would end up in a shame hangover with remorse. And so one of the most powerful tools I learned to break my dysfunctional relationship with food was to direct my focus towards self-respect. When I'm able to stop, pause, and ask myself, is this a choice aligned with self-respect? It disrupts my pattern and helps me make a true decision that is right for me. That's authentic power. Grounded, not grasping. Steady, not striving. Self-led, not externally driven. So why do we lose our power? Why do we give our power away? Here are a few of the big reasons. Firstly, we confuse power with control. We try to manage people, outcomes, or emotions, believing that if everything goes our way, we'll feel safe. But control is actually rooted in fear. True power is rooted in trust. So when we are controlling and relying on the outer, our inner world, our power, our energy, our confidence gets shaky because we are not coming from truth. We are coming from fear and we are externally focused. We also fear rejection. When your worth depends on how others see you, you hand them your power. You become reactive, constantly seeking approval. And notice how fragile you feel when you go into defensiveness. That feeling of fragility is you giving away your power, losing your power. It's like your power is being drained out of you. And another reason is we don't trust our intuition. We override our gut feelings with logic or people pleasing. We outsource decisions, forgetting that wisdom lives inside of us. And lastly, we're disconnected from our energy. Like I am with food, when the chemistry, the dopamine, when the external takes over, I lose my focus. And the chemistry, all that dopamine, takes over my centeredness and my calm. Every time you say yes when you mean no, or push through exhaustion, you deplete your energy. And your energy is your power. So if you've been feeling drained, anxious, resentful, or disempowered lately, ask yourself, Where am I leaking my energy? Because true power isn't loud. It's aligned. It is a balance of grace, gentleness, feminine flow, and masculine courage and confidence. It is the quiet confidence that comes from integrity, not intensity. When you're aligned with your truth, you don't need to prove anything. You simply become magnetic. People trust you because you trust yourself. And here's a framework for embracing authentic power. 3 pillars that really help you understand authentic, self-connected power. The first is self-respect. I honor my truth. This is the foundation of all personal power. It's knowing your values, your boundaries, and your worth, and choosing not to compromise them to be liked or accepted. A great example is when you're able to say no to something that doesn't feel aligned, even if it disappoints someone. The next pillar is self-responsibility. I own my energy. This means recognizing that you are the one responsible, the only one responsible for how you show up. You can't control what others do, but you can control your response. For example, instead of blaming or reacting, you pause and you choose a response that aligns with your values. How I shared about grace. When I come from grace, I am owning my energy. I am aligned with my true energy. This is emotional maturity in action, where power becomes presence. And the third pillar is self-alignment. I lead with integrity. Authentic power is congruence, when your thoughts, words, and actions are in harmony. For example, when you say what you mean and mean what you say, you make decisions from your heart, not fear. When you're in alignment, your energy flows freely. And that's when life starts to feel effortless, not forced. And we stay energized rather than depleted or burnt out. And so my reflection question for you this week is to think about, where in your life have you been giving your power away? And what would it look like to reclaim it with grace? Remember, reclaiming your power doesn't mean pushing harder. It means standing softer, clearer, and truer in your own energy. And here is a self-connection practice for this week. Find a quiet moment. Place your hand on your heart and take 3 slow breaths. Inhale slowly. Exhale deeply. Inhale slowly. Exhale deeply. Inhale slowly. And exhale deeply, feeling your body soft and relaxed, and feeling your presence in your body, aware of your body weight in your body. And repeat these words. My power comes from presence. My strength lives in self-respect. I lead with alignment. Let your body feel these words, not just as thoughts, but as truth. Feel the sensations in your body. Embody these words. Feel the strength within you. Feel your power. This is you. This is home. And what I'd love you to remember from this episode is that power without push is possible. True power isn't control. It's clarity, calm, and self-respect. You don't have to force your way forward when you're aligned with your truth. And be sure to check out the resources in the show notes where you can get your intentional living worksheet, because setting your intention and aligning with your values is going to become key to help you get clarity on your pathway towards self-respect. And please remember to follow this podcast so that you can get your weekly notifications. It'd be great if you can give me a rating and please comment. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this topic. And please share this episode with someone who's ready to reclaim their power from within. Thank you for joining me on a new way to love, live, and lead. And remember, you're not too late. You're right on time. And your best, most connected, empowered chapter begins right now.